Bond. James Bond.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Did we just become best friends?
Yup! Sublime!
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Tear me apart, Lisa!
But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of You Haven't Seen That, a movie discussion podcast where we introduce our friend Ben to movies he should have seen a long time ago. I'm your host, Amanda.
I'm Geoff.
And I'm Ben.
And today, we are talking about Good Will Hunting. Stick around until the end. We'll be discussing our top 4 favorite subjects in school.
Good Will Hunting. Headstrong yet aimless, Will Hunting has a genius-level IQ, but chooses to work as a janitor at MIT. When he secretly solves highly difficult graduate-level math problems, his talents are discovered by Professor Gerald Lambeau, who decides to help the misguided youth reach his potential. When Will is arrested for attacking a police officer, Professor Lambeau makes a deal to get leniency for him if he gets court-ordered therapy. Eventually, therapist Dr. Sean McGuire helps Will confront the demons that are holding him back. Good Will Hunting was released wide in January of 1998. Number 1 song on the Billboard Hot 100, Candle in the Wind / Something About the Way You Look Tonight by Elton John.
Bye, bye, little Sebastian. It's 10,000 candles in the wind.
Well, it doesn't sound like it, but he references it in the song.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, are you doing American Pie whenever you're saying that?
No. 5,000 candles in the wind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely the same
I
song.
got where you were going with this.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely the Elton John masterpiece, not written by Andy Dwyer, of course. Also around this time, the whole affair issue between Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton was at its height. Monica Lewinsky had signed an affidavit denying her affair with Clinton, and recently around this time as well, Clinton came out and said, did not have sexual relations with that woman. And then this also preceded the first John Elway Super Bowl win for the Denver Broncos, where they beat the Green Bay Packers. Sorry.
Remember all those events. Can I just sidebar real quick here?
Of course you can.
So the year this came out, and also the year you were referring to, was my 5th grade year. I was in 5th grade, and we did a whole, like, the teachers that year that I was in the class, and the teacher they teamed with, very into current events.
Mm-hmm.
Like we did Time for Kids every week, and we did these cluster openings where we'd all come out in the rooms, like our rooms made a cluster, and we'd all come out, and they'd put things like news clues up on the board where they'd list like things that were related to current events, and the whole point was we were supposed to be like going home and watching the news or reading the newspaper and seeing if we could figure out what these news clues were about. And I got super into current events that year because of that. And then like that Bill Clinton scandal happened, and it like never got mentioned, obviously, because it was a 5th grade class. It was like the biggest story for like the last half of the school year, and literally never got mentioned.
Oh my gosh.
And so like I was going checking all the news stuff, so I was very aware of this scandal, and they were very consciously avoiding discussing it, and it was permeating like every element of the news at that time.
Of course. Ugh, crazy. Good Will Hunting was directed by Gus Van Sant. This movie stars Matt Damon, Robin Williams, Ben Affleck, Stellan Skarsgård, and Minnie Driver. This movie was also written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. With a $10 million budget, this movie grossed $226 million at the global box office. This movie opened number 2 to Titanic, and it became the highest grossing film from Miramax domestically, which it surpassed Pulp Fiction and was then later surpassed by Chicago in 2002. This movie was very well received, both from critics and from the general audiences. Has a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 71 on Metacritic, and an A cinema score. This movie was also nominated for 9 Academy Awards and won two. It won Best Supporting Actor for Robin Williams and Best Original Screenplay for Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. So shout out to those Oscar winners. And it was nominated for Picture, Director, Lead Actor, Supporting Actress, Editing, Score, and Song. It lost most of those to Titanic. Shocking.
Poor year for it to come out, I guess.
I know, seriously. It lost actor to Jack Nicholson in As Good as It Gets, and it lost supporting actress to LA Confidential.
A lot of good movies that year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good year.
All right. So, Ben, why don't you start us off with your history with this movie?
Well, that's just as kind of a good segue because maybe it was because I was so into current events, or maybe it was because I really loved Robin Williams, or maybe it was because Titanic was the thing that every kid in my class was talking about. But I got super into the Oscar race that year, as the only year I really distinctly remember as a kid being super into the Oscars. And even though I didn't see any of the movies, I eventually saw Titanic. My mom wouldn't let me see it for a long time, but I eventually saw Titanic, and I eventually have seen As Good as It Gets as well, and LA Confidential. Um, but at the time, even though I hadn't seen any of the movies, I was super into the Oscar race and following it very closely. And Titanic, of course, was like, an unreal phenomenon that everybody was seeing and talking about. But I remember being very into it and rooting for Robin Williams on Oscar night for this movie because I liked him in Aladdin, I liked him in Mrs. Doubtfire. So I actually do feel like I didn't really know much about the movie itself, but I definitely like remember this being a thing back in the day because of me being so into that particular year Oscar race.
And what about you, Geoff?
So I was 5, soon to be 6 when this movie came out, and I'll be completely honest with the group here. This is my first time seeing this movie. I had never seen Good Will Hunting before, which I know feels so weird because I feel like as a 30-something-year-old millennial, this movie is like an essential for people my age. This movie is quoted so often from other people, and I feel like everybody that I know has seen this movie and or was introduced to this movie at an early age or what have you. I was not introduced to this movie until just whenever when we recorded this episode. So I obviously have heard of it, very familiar with it and its story and everything, and knew it was very celebrated, but I had never seen it until just today.
Yeah, I had not seen this movie either. So I didn't know who was in it, and I didn't really know what it was about. I think at the end of our previous episode, I was kind of questioning if it was about a smart person, but that was kind of the extent of my knowledge. And honestly, I kind of thought I was surprised when I learned this movie came out in the late 90s because it just feels like one of those ones that people have talked about for so long that I think it should be an older movie. So that kind of surprised me. But yeah, I had heard about its existence over the years, but that was pretty much the extent of what I knew. Geoff, why don't you give us your rating?
Ooh, I did not want to start. I'm trying to debate between a couple of different numbers here. I get it. I get why this movie is as loved and as celebrated as it is. I was deeply moved by this movie. I think that the performances are amazing. This is maybe the most Boston movie ever, and it is such an important movie in so many ways. I can't quite give it a 5 yet, but I have a feeling with time this might be. I'm gonna stick with a 4.75.
And what about you, Ben?
Yeah, I really liked it as well. I think, it's I didn't quite know what to expect because, like I said, even though I followed the Oscars, I didn't really know too much about like the tone of the movie. And I really enjoyed it. The math element was a little hard for me to connect with because I'm just so bored to tears. And that wasn't really what it was about, but like that element of it, if it had been like, perhaps a different Prodigy, I think maybe I would have connected with it slightly more. I think it's really solid though. I'm gonna give it a 4.
All right. And Yeah, I don't think I have anything different to say that either of you haven't already said about this, but I surprisingly really, really enjoyed this. And as Jeff said, I get it. So 4.75.
Wow.
So it is officially tied with Lilo and Stitch and The Apartment with our second highest rating of the season. Exact same score spread as The Apartment and falls just behind Inception.
Although we didn't, it wasn't the same people with the same score spread for The Apartment.
Correct. The Apartment, Amanda was the one that gave it a 4,
Right.
and Ben, you gave this one a 4.
Yeah. See, and I almost gave it a 4.25. I almost knocked it above those two on the overall. But
No,
that's what I said.
no, that's
Feels like
great.
it should be above Lilo and Stitch. But
Right.
I think that's I think
Lilo and Stitch a 4.25, so who knows?
I think that is such a we are millennials
Yeah.
statement to say right there. Yeah, we're gonna hold The Apartment and Good Will Hunting in the same breath as Lilo and Stitch, and just narrowly ahead of How to Train Your Dragon. So and also behind Inception,
Yeah.
which is hilarious.
I stand
to
by
say.
that.
That's fine.
Although actually, no, I gave Inception a 4 too, so never
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. I think from your perspective, Ben, I think Inception is a movie that you respect. This might be more a movie
Yes,
that
yes.
you like.
This is a higher 4 than Inception.
Yeah, that's fair.
Higher on the enjoyment scale.
Yeah.
There's too much math in Inception.
Yeah, there's only a little math in this one. There's too much math in Inception. Um,
But yeah, I was. It's funny you brought up the math point, Ben, because I'm the opposite. This is where like it really connected with me because I'm a math guy. I just love that kind of thing. So I loved the depth of it. I didn't quite realize maybe I don't know the level of truth to this, and maybe I should have dug deeper, but the idea of like competitive mathematics as well, and the interconnection between math and academia and why professors especially would be so moved by meeting someone like Will. I really connected with that point, and I think the way that element is intertwined with Will's journey of self-discovery is really interesting to see, and feeling those outside pressures. I think it's communicated really, really well throughout the movie. I think they did a really good job of finding that right balance between how in depth do we get with the math stuff? How in depth do we get with the therapy stuff? How in depth do we get with the personal stuff? So I think they did a really good job of having all of those paths cross and giving each one the right amount of, say, room to breathe, if you will.
I like just don't have like a frame of reference with the math stuff. Like I just can't connect to stuff like that. It didn't overwhelm this movie like it does in some movies. But like when they sit there and like the whole like the proving the theory like is like a foreign concept to me. Like I'm like, just what's the answer? Like
I
you have
know,
to show
right?
how you got,
That's
like I don't know. And I've never like it just reminds me of like back when I was in college and I had to take a couple math and science classes and felt like I needed it felt like the classes are being taught in Chinese. Like I I was
Yes.
like just not understanding and like I still don't to this like there's like elements of biology I get like there's elements of that but like when we get into like chemistry, physics and like real high mathematics like I am like this like it's the impenetrable wall for me that I cannot not even like connect even a little bit. Not even like, oh, like biology where I'm like, okay, I don't really understand and I don't really want to learn, but I kind of get the basics and the gist. This is like, nope, no idea. No idea about anything.
Yeah, I think what helped me was that they didn't just focus on him being good at math. There were
Right,
many other
right.
places where they showcased he just had high intelligence in general or yeah, I don't know, was very well read and probably had a photographic memory, etc. So I was like, okay, this dude isn't like just good at math, but like math is
That's his
the
bread and
thing
butter.
he's the best at.
Yeah. That's the thing
Yeah,
that can
I
be
agree.
that's the thing that can be explored more than just stuff like reciting facts, if you will. Like that's the stuff that can be you can dive into it a little bit deeper. I did like when they the analogy that he brought up when he's out to coffee with Skylar while she's working on homework. And he mentions it's like, you know how Beethoven and Monet, they just look at a piano and they just see it. That's the way I feel with this or that. Like that was a really cool analogy to hear and help connect the dots between all of those points. So I think it's a really good job of explaining it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think so. I one thing I wasn't looking forward to going into this movie was like knowing that this dude was like really smart or whatever, and I kind of thought it was going to be such a huge focus on that in a very annoying way. But I think the fact that he was also like just a kid, obviously not like a kid, but like 20, and also had these other like personal issues going on, and having that other focus on like his personal life and like in therapy, like I think that really helped like kind of even everything out, because sometimes it can just be just so like pretentious. And that's definitely what it felt like when we were like focusing on the professor more. It's kind of like, okay, Jerry, get out of here. No one cares. You feel sad that you can't do this formula.
Yeah, watching
Well,
him
and
crumble when Will is burning the paper is just was kind of hilarious to watch.
my favorite part of the movie in general was when they were having, and it happened in a couple different places with a couple different characters, was when they were having discussions about like um kind of the difference between like having textbook knowledge and having and truly living in world knowledge
Yes.
and I think that's such a fascinating conversation. I thought it was really well portrayed in this movie multiple times, where they had those conversations, like, especially in that scene between Robin Williams and Stellan Skarsgård, but it happened in other places too. It even
Hmm.
happened at the
Hmm.
bar with that,
Yep.
before we even, met Robin Williams. And I think that's just such an interesting conversation to have. Like, what can I learn from you? What are you that's not I can't find in a textbook kind of thing? And I think that's a thing that people struggle with. And I think people that kind of speaks to like kind of the right brain, left brain kind of stuff. And you think about like people who are technically very sound but can't apply it, or people who are, you always hear about these people who are brilliant but can't really ever stay in a career, can't really ever, like
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
kind of thing can happen. And just the way that like the success is such a holistic word and definition, and it's not just being smart, and it's not just being successful, and it's not just I don't know. I thought this movie explored all that really well and in interesting ways.
Agreed 100%. Especially when you mentioned how it's brought up there multiple times. When to see the contrast between when Will confronts the Harvard students at the bar and it's like, oh yeah, you just got that out of a textbook. Well, here's this and that. And it's like, well, guess what? Will also got that out of a textbook. He
Yeah.
just also has the balance of life to make himself seem better, if you will. Like he doesn't need to go to Harvard and he just knows all this stuff. But then when Sean is reading Will the riot act on the park bench, being like, come on, dude, like you've never been out of Boston. You've never done this. Like, I've lived this stuff. Wait till you
Right.
live this stuff before, which, like, that monologue is just legendary. That was incredible. I feel like we need to like go back in time and to to the episode we did from Mrs. Doubtfire about our Robin Williams performances and
Oh
just
yeah.
like start changing
Re-rank. Yeah.
everything. Everything gets re-ranked after this. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we put the preface there at the beginning of that being like, we have not seen Good Will Hunting. We
Right.
need to really drive that in. We have not seen this yet. But watching him read the riot act there on the bench really accentuates that point there perfectly, Ben. And then seeing Will's transformation throughout the movie, the more he engages with Sean was so rewarding to see.
Well, and I want to get back to Robin Williams,
Of
but
course.
I was just when I was at church today, our pastor, shout out to our fantasy football, fellow team member Jim, who's my pastor, and Jeff and Amanda when they come back home. But anyway, it was interesting because it made me think of this movie today because he talked about how it's so easy to like think that you are right about everything and how easily people fall into that trap. And he said, like, you probably don't think all the same things you thought 20, 30 years ago, but people get so into this like mode of thinking that what they think in the current moment is right. And I think that
Mhm.
that speech dealt with that too. I think that it's good to have somebody challenge your kind of conventional wisdom about certain things. And like Matt Damon thought he was the one showing them up because of he's so well read. He's not this like robotic Harvard student, he doesn't need to go to Harvard to be and then like to have Robin Williams then come in and challenge him on the same things. I just loved that parallel. I should have given this a 4.25.
You can change it. We'll change it right now. There you go.
I want to change it. Give it a 4.25.
Let's do it.
The more I'm talking about it, I'm like, dang, I really did like this movie.
Hey, I did that with Black Swan. I'm like, this is our podcast. We're going to change it. No, that's awesome.
Right.
Let's do it.
There's no rules.
Exactly. Changing it now.
This is really funny because I actually thought of this movie today while we were in church too.
Same.
And our sermon was actually kind of close to yours, Ben, which is funny. Basically, it was about like sharing your story and about how like it's easy to share your opinions with people because if someone doesn't agree with you, you can just write them off. But if you actually like share your story and share part of who you are with them, like that's vulnerability. And I was like, oh, it's just like the movie.
Just like the movie. I thought about this so many times. Shout out Mike. Not our head pastor, but the head of our youth program.
And not in our fantasy football league.
Not in our fantasy football league.
We could invite him.
Mike's the best.
I'll have to tell Jim that he got mentioned in our podcast.
Okay, so back to Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He's incredible.
Incredible.
Oh my goodness.
I'm so glad he won the Oscar for this.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like, he did a few of these serious movies in his career. It makes me wonder, like, the fact that he didn't do more of them, was that his choice or was that like the people's choice or the studio's choice? Like, did he not get a lot of these opportunities or did he only choose to take them once in a while? Like, you would think he became so successful, he almost would have had his pick of the litter. He preferred to not have to do this very often, but boy, when he does, and same with Dead Poet Society, like he is so good.
So good.
And he's such a great actor. And I think you lose that sometimes when he's doing his voices and his characters. But he's really good in those movies too. I mean, he's, it's very impressive.
He beat Robert Forster for Jackie Brown, Anthony Hopkins for Amistad, Greg Kinnear for As Good as It Gets, and Burt Reynolds for Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good lineup.
Yeah, good lineup. But
I mean, I don't know a lot of those movies, but as far as the actors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a really sad review on Letterboxd that was like, I hope somebody hugged Robin Williams and told him it wasn't his fault. And I was like, why would you write that? That's so sad. But honestly, like, I just wish this whole movie was Matt Damon and Robin Williams. Like, I just felt myself craving, wanting them to be back together whenever they were focusing on a different relationship in his life.
Yeah.
I was like, no, time for another appointment. Go back.
Time's not up. Stop.
The movie and Matt Damon and Robin Williams did such a good job of showing like the evolving relationship between those two.
Mm-hmm.
It really did. I noted it at one point too, where it was like, I think it was definitely later on in the movie, towards the end. You don't see them like like Amanda, you said, you don't see them all the time together. But at one point, like Will brings up like who would step out for you or whatever, and he mentioned Chucky, who I believe is Ben Affleck's character. I can't remember, but he mentions him by name, and then Robin is like, "Nah, this is with Chucky. Chucky would do this or that or whatever." And it's like, oh, they've talked about his friends. It's clear that Will has opened up at some point to this, and this is a rewarding way of showing like, oh, their relationship is growing. We didn't need to see it like specifically unfold in front of our faces. Like, oh, it's understood that like during all of this time where Will's in this discovery, he's chatting with his friends, or this is going on in Sean's life as he's meeting with Jerry, that there are things that are happening behind the scenes, and that we don't need to explicitly see every moment that Will is going through with all of this. So no, you're right. It's very, very clear that their relationship did grow throughout this.
Yeah. And I think this movie is pretty ahead of its time for the early 90s of having such a, not that other movies I'm sure haven't had a large focus on therapy, but I think just the fact that, when the professor Jerry is like bailing him out of prison, that he's insistent, like, you have to go to therapy. Like you have to, work on yourself. It's not just the intelligence and the mathematics that I'm going to work with you on. It's also like you need to deal with your problems and work this out in therapy, which was just not, I mean, very standard today, but not so much in the 90s.
And I think it's a good testament to the importance, not just with therapy, but also maybe just in general with like medical stuff, but we'll emphasize the therapy, the importance of finding the right fit. I think that it was important to show that Sean wasn't the first choice as a therapist, and that Jerry went through maybe the routes that, again, kind of emphasized his motivations as the movie was going along, but that he went to like the more academic therapists or psychologists or whatever, or people that were at other prestigious institutions and not necessarily a community college built into like the side of a stone building or whatever. It's important to show like the fit, because I know, like, for me, for example, I've been to therapy before, and I met with a therapist for a little while, but it just was not a good fit, and I think I was there for maybe a little too long and was getting more frustrated by the end of it. So it's something that's important, is finding that right fit between patient and doctor, and this was a great showcase of that, especially when Sean finally kind of cracks Will and kind of figures him out, and they figure each other out, because it was a rewarding situation for both of them, ultimately.
How do we feel about the Minnie Driver stuff? Which, first of all, I never remember that she's British until I hear her talk. Like, that has happened to me so many times in my life with Minnie Driver. Like, every time she talks, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
I couldn't remember how many times I had seen Minnie Driver on screen, and then I went through my movie credits with her, and she plays Carlotta in the Joel Schumacher Phantom of the Opera, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's where I really know her from. Oh my goodness.
She's been in a couple TV shows.
I liked it. I think if Will were to fall for someone and be in a relationship with someone, it just makes sense that it would be someone who is intellectually at or close to the same level as him. And it would be someone who fits his vibe, who can hang with the boys, who can go out to the bar. And I think that that's what the conversations between Sean and Will about how Sean, the night he met his wife, the night of that World Series game, which, as he's describing the Carlton Fisk home run, I was like, oh, I know exactly which game this is. It was so, like, as he's describing, like, oh yeah, I know exactly this moment. But as he's describing, like, the impact of that night, I think that they did a good job in showcasing even the little bit the dynamic between Will and Skylar, because it's clear they had chemistry, and I think they did well together, and I think that it's intentional that it was as brief as it was. So I liked it. I think it was important to have in the movie.
Yeah, I think it was important to have. I wasn't super interested in it compared to like you said, Amanda. I always just wanted it to be Matt Damon and Robin Williams.
Yeah.
But then I even found the stuff with the friends to me a little more interesting than the stuff with Minnie Driver. I think it was important for the character to have a character like her in the story, but I didn't find myself too interested in those scenes.
Yeah. It was fine. I was appalled that they had their first kiss while they were mid-chew.
I mean, that was gross.
And I almost gagged when she said, I think I got some of your pickle. Like,
yeah, that's a big no.
That was vile.
Was that particularly because it was a pickle and not something else? And
no,
like,
the thought of any food transferring mouths while you're kissing is just no, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my toddler who takes food out of his mouth and offers it to me.
Man is about to be sick as we're recording.
Do you take it? That's the important question.
I will sometimes take it. I will not eat it.
Okay, good.
Okay. I don't care if you take it, as long as you're not putting it in your mouth.
You're being a good dad and a logical dad. Perfect.
You're like, no, yummy.
Oh, so good.
Bye. It's like the magic chick with the caramels. Want yummy.
I also thought it was funny that they had someone as the romantic interest with a classy British accent versus
Right?
Matt Damon's Boston
Yeah.
accent.
Yeah.
I was like, we got the classiest and the least classiest over here.
You still think Boston accents are classy?
I really don't.
For context, Amanda just got back from a work trip to Boston, so she's had to hear Boston accents for the last, however many days. And so getting this sharp sort of like surprise, we're gonna watch one of the most Boston movies ever.
Yeah. Speaking of, I have a fun story about Boston accents since we're talking about it. So I was at a conference and, convention centers are usually like really big. And so Boston's is nice because they have a golf cart shuttle that will take you all around like the first level to help, people get around so they don't have to walk as far. And the drivers of these little golf carts were just the sweetest, nicest, like old men. They were like all retired. You could tell they just like love talking to people all day and driving people around. And so I finally was able to like catch one a couple days in, and the guy was chatting with me and he was so nice. And then I got off and I was like, "Thank you so much. Like, what's your name?" And he was like, "Oh, my name's Marty." And I was like, "Thank you so much, Marty. You're the best." And he looks at me, he goes, "Marty." And I was like, I feel like I'm making fun of you if I call you Marty.
Marty, yeah.
But another person also said to me, he goes, we're a dying breed. And that actually got me thinking because I'm like, I wonder if younger people do have the Boston accent still. I feel like a lot of times when I hear it, it's in like the older generation.
Yeah. I think it's probably to some degree still there, but like I feel like people move around more and they're more exposed to other things outside of, like
Yeah, that's fair.
more interconnected with other people that aren't local.
Yeah.
I
Maybe it
bet
won't
there's
be a
still
thing.
kids who have it though. I mean, there's still Southern accents for kids, you know what I mean? Like and it
Yeah.
probably gets like if you live there your whole life, it probably gets like
Mm.
worse or more so as you get older.
Yeah.
I always think like people who do like those like if you're a one of those like public transportation people, especially if you're in like a smaller thing like an Uber driver or especially if you're paid to hire, like you've got to be like into talking with strangers. Like that's got to be like a thing you enjoy.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not so much Uber drivers, but I think of when my wife and I were in California for our honeymoon and we got in an Uber and the guy like asked a question like, "Oh, where are you from?" We said, "Oh, we're over from by Buffalo." And he's like, "Well, did you guys go in the Pacific Ocean?" And we said, we dipped our feet in because it was cold. And then the next 20 minutes he spent complaining about the politics of the Pacific Ocean out there in San Diego and all this stuff that was like, I'm like, does he just like go through this rant with every drive? Like, does he find some real narrow or real kind of circumvent way to get into the talk about the Pacific Ocean so he can go on his rant? I kind of got the sense he did.
Some people, they just need to talk about it.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Two things about the opening credits. I felt like, first of all, it was interesting that Robin Williams was the first build, and I'm sure that was related to the name or his contract, but obviously he wasn't the lead character. And then also it totally felt like a 90s TV show credits.
It did. It absolutely did. Sort of like softly guiding us into
that real soft music, piano kind of
with Will in the background, just like sitting there reading a book and stuff.
I was like, movies don't start like this very often anymore.
No, they're like putting the pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Another thing too was I like it's interesting because this was obviously like the first big thing for Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. And like I don't know, like they've just permeated culture ever since, the two of them. Like I feel like to have them both break through at that age and then just to continue, here we are over 25 years later and they're still major figures in entertainment. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah. This being sort of like their big break, it's wild. Especially, I mean, they've done stuff before, like on screen, but like behind the scenes, like it's unbelievable.
it was interesting to see Matt Damon look so young because I feel like he looked that way for a long time, and then I felt like he suddenly got old looking, and he started doing like the beard and stuff,
Hmm.
and
Well,
then to see like this young, fresh-faced Matt Damon again was interesting.
big time. And I think that in terms of the story itself, I think it is a very good screenplay and story. I think that the language that is set, some of the language is a little intense, but for the time, it's not necessarily intense. Obviously, when we look at it from a 2025 lens, it's like, oh gosh, like those words, we shouldn't be using that or whatever. But I know for like that time and that era, like it fit very well. But I think that it explored a lot of ideas and explored a lot of concepts very, very eloquently and very, very effectively. That, yeah, this was a really great story and a great script and delivered very well. So very deserving winners. I just quickly had to pull it up. This movie beat As Good as It Gets, Boogie Nights, Deconstructing Harry, and The Full Monty for Best Original Screenplay.
And for being as young as they were, holy cow! Like,
Right? Side note too, I did want to actually, I'm really happy you brought this up, Ben, because I do want to briefly, very briefly, just dive into this. Realize that Ben Affleck is very much my jam as a like from the behind the scenes perspective. So Ben has directed, so he's written 5 movies and he's directed 5 feature length movies. And I've seen 4 of his 5 directed movies. I've seen Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Argo, and Air, and I love all of those movies. They're all fantastic in one degree or another. He's also written the movie The Last Duel, which is a Ridley Scott movie that also stars him and Matt Damon. That is awesome. It was a very underseen movie from kind of the COVID era, like 2021. Like nobody's going back to the theaters really that much anymore. I got the chance to see it though, and I think that movie's extraordinary. He is just very much my jam. I don't know what it is. The movie, whether it be like the setting that he puts his movies in, or the themes that it tackles, or the tone that it sets. Like I don't know what it is, but his movies just work for me, and this just further solidified it for sure. Not just because I think Ben Affleck is a good actor and like whatever on screen, but like yeah, just what the movie talks about and explores and the way it's told just is very much my jam.
Speaking of the screenplay, the top review for this movie on Letterboxd is very funny. Will never be able to wrap my head around the fact that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote this screenplay. They literally look like they have one brain cell between the two of them.
And what was the rating? What rating did they give it, Sudie?
5 stars.
Yeah, watching the 4 of them, watching Matt, Ben, Casey Affleck, and Cole Hauser just like shooting it up like at the bar and whatever, just acting like complete buffoons was really, really funny and adds a whole layer of depth to Will's character. And because and understanding like why the situations that Will has been in, like in his life, and you would think, why is a man as smart as Will is with these guys, but it makes like complete sense and perfect sense given what ultimately is important to him that we found out throughout the movie. Like he wants to make a difference. He wants to feel loved. He wants to like see tangible results in action. And those other guys do that for him. And you can tell that, especially as the movie unfolds, you can tell they're all friends. Like it's legit. They're not using him. They're not trying to whatever. Like they're looking out for Will. They know his situation, and the moment where Chucky talks to Will, like while they're on their lunch break, is so both heartbreaking and so like life affirming all at the same time. When Chucky's like, I really hope, like, the best 10 seconds of my day are when I'm walking to your door and I hope that you're not there to answer it because you're gone and you've gone on to do bigger things. Is so it adds so much depth to their characters on top of it. And yeah,
pays off in the end too.
Big time payoff in the end. Man, that moment at the end of the movie where like it's not just Chucky who's happy that Will isn't there. Everybody's like, good for Will.
It felt to me very like, I mean, my friends were not like that at that age, but like it felt to me very like a very real portrayal of a group of friends.
Definitely. Absolutely. People who only have the best of intentions for each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, so good.
One other line I loved, I just wrote, so when there's the reunion for Stellan Skarsgård's character and the kids come up and they're like, "Come here," and he sees the students, he's like, "It's Saturday." I was like, that would be my reaction on
Yes.
Go away. What are you doing?
It's like when I see an elementary student in tops, and I'm like, I don't want to see you here because it's not work time.
Oh my goodness. Speaking of Jerry's character, sorry, Professor Lambos or Dr. Lambos, I'm sure he'd want to be called. I was the whole time I think I wrote really early on in the movie that it definitely seems like Gerald wants to use Will, not help him. And with the way it unfolds, but also thankfully by the end of the movie it's like no, Jerry actually had like good intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, like, I feel like a lesser movie, he'd be the villain.
Yes, agreed. 100%. There'd be some like devious plot at the end of it
Yeah,
all.
or just like the roadblock to it all.
Yes.
Like, and instead he was like all the characters, he had his own opinions that were pretty well expressed, and like he believed it. And like I feel like it was, yeah, there were no real villains or antagonists in this. It was just
The
different people having different beliefs.
the villains were the demons that we all deal with internally. That was
Yeah.
the villain of the movie. But no, I think his perspective in terms of like the academia of it all, being afraid to be wrong or
Well,
constantly emphasizing like, oh, the genius of it all and oh, you're so
right.
brilliant and whatever. And even seeing the relationship he had with his TA, Tom, like he was like, he still was, TAs need to be pretty darn smart to do their thing. And he even looked like beneath him at times. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, just give me a cup of coffee or whatever.
Right.
He never held him to the same regards. And even then, it was almost like, oh, is the TA going to be a villain in this as well, given the looks that he's giving? But that didn't end up being a thing either, which I was happy about. So, yeah, very interesting to see just in general unfold.
And I think like, it's his character's Lambo's like frustrations with Will were valid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've been in that, but where you're like, come on, like you can do so much more than what you're doing, kind of
Yep.
thing. And I think that was why Robin Williams' character was such a good like counterbalance to that to kind of talk through it with him. But like, I think I've been in Lambo's shoes before of getting frustrated with a kid you don't think is reaching their potential.
Yeah. Guys, I was really mad that his name was Will Hunting.
Why?
I know.
Why?
I don't know. I was like, it never even occurred to me that it could have been someone's name, like the title.
Yeah.
And then as we turned this on, I looked at Geoff and I was like, I'm gonna be so mad if this guy's name is Will Hunting. Like, I don't know. It's just
It is
I
a
don't I'm
little bit of a cute title, like for like such a thoughtful movie. I feel like it's a little bit of a
yeah.
cutesy, gimmicky title.
Yeah, definitely. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. It's just like I don't understand why they made that the title, but
Yeah.
anyways, had never in my life considered that Will Hunting was a character's name.
And also the title, the way I interpreted it beyond just like, hey, you're telling Will Hunting that he's good, it also is seeking out goodwill. Like you're hunting for goodwill. And
Yeah.
which, guess what? Will Hunting definitely needed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I felt that hug at the end of the movie. Man, I felt it.
Which hug do we like more, that or when Aladdin hugs Genie at the end of Aladdin?
Oh my gosh.
This one for sure.
I don't know. I am very moved by that Aladdin Genie hug at the end of Aladdin.
Robin Williams hugs just hit differently, whether they be in real life form or animated form.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like a real good hug.
Did
Yeah.
seem like a real good hug.
A cathartic hug for sure.
Oof. We all need a good hug every now and then.
Oh, and the fact that Rob Williams kept calling him son throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Sad. Anyways, anyone have any final thoughts before we move into our recommendations?
How do you like them apples?
Which apparently is from this movie.
No,
I
I
don't
just
think
looked
so.
it. I just looked it up. That was on
Jeff,
me.
you lied to
I
me.
know. I led you astray. It got me thinking as we were sitting here. I'm like, I should look that up. If
Like
what
that's
I
an
told
older
him is wrong.
expression, isn't it?
It is an older expression per Google Gemini, which I shouldn't be draining a water reservoir to look this up. But the exact origin is unclear, but the phrase likely originated in World War I from soldiers taunting enemies with, quote, toffee apple grenades, which were a nickname for the large round mortars. The phrase became more widely known through pop culture, particularly the 1959 movie Rio Bravo and the 1997/98 film Good Will Hunting.
All right. Oh, you lied to me.
Sorry. Know that it wasn't my intention to lie to you. I promise.
All right. Jeff, why don't you give us our movie recommendations for the week?
Awesome. So I've got 3. And the first one I'm going to start with, I'm not going to include A Beautiful Mind in this because I think the parts of this that were impactful were not necessarily the math scenes, as Ben kind of alluded to, but the kind of relationship with a fatherly figure portrayed by Robin Williams. So we're going to start with Dead Poets Society. Feels like a pretty appropriate one.
Very obvious one, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
let's
like,
just.
I was like, if Jeff doesn't say Dead Poet Society, then
Yeah, this is like that's the obvious one. We're just gonna put that out there right off the bat and say, yep, that would be number 1. Don't really explain it more. Number 2, I decided to look into Gus Van Sant a little bit more because Gus Van Sant, weirdly, this is my second movie that I've seen of his just this year, and this is one of a few movies in a row that he did where he's explored kind of the male teenage/young adult experience in America in different ways. The latest one being To Die For with Nicole Kidman, where Nicole Kidman's trying to be a news broadcaster who is trying to reach like the heights of the news world and stuff, and she ends up using like teenagers played by like Joaquin Phoenix and Casey Affleck. He ends up using them and like damaging them and hurting them to get her way and get what she wants, which I thought was a very good movie. But that's not the one I'm specifically referencing for this. I'm going to use My Own Private Idaho, which is starring Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix and their sort of journey to find family and to find themselves. And it takes them across the world. So I think that sort of journey of discovery for young adults ties nicely with this one, so I'm going to recommend that. And then the third one is Ben Affleck's directorial debut, which I noted in my Letterboxd review as I was going back in time. I noted it as, quote, the most Boston movie I've ever seen. Before this, movie called Gone Baby Gone, which stars his brother Casey Affleck, also stars Michelle Monaghan, also stars Morgan Freeman, where Casey Affleck and Michelle Monaghan play private investigators. And yeah, it is a very good, very, very, very good movie about kind of a detective who wanted to be more than what he was, but is now given the case to get that opportunity and his sort of discovery. And it takes place in Boston with a lot of heavy Boston accents. So I really, really enjoyed that movie, and I think it'd be a great one to pair, not necessarily because of the direct theme, but the overall subject matter and the connection to Ben Affleck. So I wasn't going to put The Town because there's not too much crime in this movie, but so I'll use Gone Baby Gone as my final recommendation.
Great, thank you. Ben, what are your TV recommendations this week?
I have 2. One of them, going down the Boston road, if you want to talk about the most Boston movie, the most Boston show would be Cheers.
Yep.
Which of course, has some great Boston accents and some non-Boston accents. Also, I feel like there's a little bit of a connection to like untapped potential with some of those characters in Cheers. But the one that this really made me think of was The Queen's Gambit, which was a phenomenon on Netflix back in 2020, I believe.
Yep.
And Anya Taylor-Joy as a chess prodigy very much, I think, does a very similar exploration of potential versus execution, and also with kind of a troubled young person who needs some mentoring, needs some guidance. And obviously it's because it's an 8-episode series. It's got a little bit longer spent in some of these things and a little bit more of a downward spiral, but very much made me think of this movie.
Ben, that is a fantastic pull. I didn't even consider that at the time, but as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's such a good comparison. That finale, the finale to Queen's Gambit, by the way, is truly one of my favorite episodes of TV. Like,
It's a
love that
show
so
I'd
much.
like to revisit at some point. I really
Yep.
loved it when I watched it, and I have not revisited it, but someday
Same.
maybe.
Love that show.
I never watched it when it was popular. All right, let's move into our top four. So, like I mentioned at the top, we're doing our top four favorite subjects in school, since this focuses a lot on academia and learning. So, I will let Ben go first this week.
Okay. I wasn't sure, like, I was like, do I like do like broad subjects? Do I do specific classes? Do I think of more of high school or more of college? And I just kind of was like, I'm just gonna kind of do my broad, like, top four, I guess, kind of across things. And so number four, band. Which, I'm a big time music person, always have been. Band was never quite as much my thing as one that's higher up on this list, but anytime that I could be making music instead of sitting at a desk was always a good time for me. Um, Number three, journalism, which I took my senior year of high school, and you could take it instead of English as a senior because English, like, I like to read, but I like to read the books I want to read, and I never was too into the books we had to read for high school or college when I do some of that. I did take a children's literature class in college that was much more fun. But I put journalism on there because, it made me wish that we had done a school paper, and it made me wish when I did that as a senior that I had done all 4 years of high school because I really enjoyed doing that. I really enjoyed kind of doing articles, and I enjoyed like the conversations about journalism too, and the kind of topics that were explored in that class. So that was very much a favorite of mine when I look back. Number two, U.S. history. I want to specify the US part of it. I am a social studies nerd in general, so I like history in general. Any social studies class is going to be better than any science class, even when I don't like it. But if we're going to be specific, I think US history is more interesting to me. And I think it has almost less to do with it being US versus world and more to do with being more recent. I find more recent history, and the fact that US history really only goes back a couple hundred years, I find more interesting than like the ancient stuff. So that's number two. And number one is chorus. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a chorus teacher. I started as a music ed major in college with plans to be a chorus teacher. I did not do that, but I still obviously am involved with that by musical directing. That was definitely like my favorite place to be in high school was chorus. And I miss singing in a choir, actually. I don't do it anymore, but yeah, that was number one.
Good list.
And I'd like to mention too that even though there's no way in hell a science or math course would get on this list for me, some of my all-time favorite teachers were some science and math teachers. My all-time favorite teacher I ever had was my 7th and 8th grade science teacher. Another all-time favorite was my junior year math teacher. So, good teachers can make a difference, not to make it a favorite subject, but to make it a much more positive experience than it would have been otherwise. So shout out to them, Miss Mack and Mrs. Terrell.
I feel like science teachers are usually a pretty cool breed.
Yeah.
All right, Geoff, let's hear your list.
All right. So my number four is also chorus / but varsity singers specifically. So when I was in high school, starting with your freshman year, you had to take an arts related thing as part of your curriculum. It was either band, art, or singing, chorus, whatever you want to call it. I called it Freshman Singers was the name of the course. And I was going to do band because I played the flute in middle school. But when I got to registration day, they said I wasn't experienced enough to be in the concert level band. It was too good to be in like the freshman level band, but they were where they were going to stick me. So I ended up going with vocals. And I stuck with it all 4 years because it was amazing. It was a great experience, one of the best experiences of my life. So being able to have that be inserted into my daily routine was great in high school. Number three is my only college-related thing, but I put all of my marketing courses, specifically my digital marketing courses. I took a number of internet marketing, social media marketing, communications, marketing analytics courses, and because my co-major is marketing, and I loved those. I think the intersection between, I loved those courses because it intersected real life and academia very effectively and gave a good foundation to the career that I have today. While I don't work in the, say, copywriting part of marketing, I work in the math side of marketing and the results-based side of marketing. I loved all of those subjects to explore, and I think they built a great foundation. Number 2 is also history / social studies. Specifically, I'm going to say European history. I've just been so fascinated with it. I took European history AP European history my senior year of high school specifically, and I loved the definitive nature of history and learning and understanding why things are the way they are, and getting to understand different cultures, different parts of the world was always interesting to me. When I started in social studies my freshman year of high school, one of our big things was to memorize a map of the world and know all get 100 countries right or whatever in a test. And I could basically do the whole thing. And I loved, my favorite teacher in high school was my history teacher my freshman, sophomore, and senior year. So shout out to Mr. Williams. James Williams was the best. And then my number 1 is a catch-all for everything math related. Shocking to nobody who knows me, I know. Math was my favorite subject. My mom is an accountant, and I just have always connected with math. One of my biggest regrets with college was only taking 2 math-related courses, and both of them were my freshman year, the first 2 trimesters at RIT, both of which I got an A, and I was like, I'm done with math the rest of the way. And now I work in math today. My relationship to math is funny because I'll never forget this. My 8th grade year, I promise I'll be done with this soon. My 8th grade year, February, I had a breakdown in class, started crying because I got a question wrong on a test. And it was the first question I had gotten wrong all year in math class. From September to February, I had a breakdown because I got a question wrong. And
my first math question wrong was whatever the first day of school was.
Mr. Reister was the teacher of my 7th and 8th grade math, and he knew I was upset. Everybody was like, "Oh God, this kid." But he told me, he's like, "Look, if you don't get another question wrong the rest of the year, I will take that away from you. You won't have that on your record." And sure enough, I got a perfect the rest of the way through, and everything else in math. So 8th grade math, that was the highlight of my life. And I got another thing too from senior year of high school, I got 1 question wrong on the math section of the SAT, and I'll never forget it to this day. And it was around getting the side of a triangle the wrong number. The answer was 100, and I put 99. And that 770 is gonna always just hover in my brain.
Jeff's like, I got 1 question in math wrong. I mean, well, I'm like, am I gonna be able to pass high school because of this dang math?
Same, Ben.
English and science,
in college,
though.
I took math 101 called college mathematics, and it might have well have been level 4 Mandarin Chinese. It was, which I know I mentioned earlier, it was the most basic 101 college math class, and it was literally, I thought I was going to die. I would go to the TA sessions and just put my head down and bang it against the table. I don't know what I'm doing here.
I was the same way with English courses, literature courses. I was awful at that. And now I have a movie podcast. Yes. So explain that.
Oh my goodness. Too funny.
I'm boring
and
Amanda.
I definitely side with you.
I'm boring Amanda as I'm talking about math over here.
No, math and I don't get along, and we never have. You won't be finding any math classes on my top 4. I was in advanced math when I was in 6th and 7th grade because I don't think they had advanced math in elementary school. And then I got kicked out halfway through 7th grade. And that was the beginning of the end. Yeah, when I had to take they called it, back in the day, they called it Math B, was just yeah, in high school, it was Math B. There was Math A and Math B.
Yeah, and I took remember,
you
took it halfway through your second year. You took the exam and then again at the end of the 3rd year or something like that.
Yeah, it was also part of the Regents curriculum as well,
right.
too.
Yeah, but I remember being so pumped when I got a 65 on my Math B. I was like, yes.
One question wrong for Jeff, and he's in tears. Amanda gets a 65, and she's like, walking on air.
And I'm like, the teacher probably had to go through my test like 3 times to try to like find an extra point they could give me somewhere. Like,
I failed my chemistry regents in high school by 1 point, and my teacher's like, I looked everywhere to try and give you one more point. And I had to take it again this summer. And I got a 72, which I'm pretty proud of. I think that's about the greatest I could ever do on a chemistry.
There you go. All right. So for my list, my number 4 is English. I feel like, oh, sorry. I was going to say before this, I tried to do more broad as well, and I focused more on high school than I did on like college or other years. So English, English is a English has always been relatively easier for me, but there are definitely some aspects of English classes that I didn't like. Like you, Ben, I usually didn't like the books that we had to read, but I've always been very good at like spelling and writing. And so it's something that came easier for me. So it was never too difficult. And I guess that's why I liked it. My number 3, I kind of cheated a little bit, but I put the only 2 science classes that I ever like really enjoyed and actually could grasp somewhat, but that would be biology and geology. And same as you, Ben, I really loved all my science teachers. I feel like at least as many as I can think of. But
I didn't love all of them, but I loved some of them.
yeah, I'm like, at least the ones I had in high school, I think were mostly like very cool. I got to go to Boston with my biology class. I don't know why. I think maybe I was in AP biology. Maybe that was why. How that happened, I don't know. But we went to Boston and yeah, so I always enjoyed those two. But same as you, Ben, when you get into chemistry and physics and all those different kinds of things, it's like, nope, I'm gone. You have lost me. Nowhere to be found. My number 2 is French. I took French in middle school and all the way through high school, and I always enjoyed it. I always, for the most part, loved my French teachers and have always enjoyed learning different languages. And then my number 1 is a combined chorus and band because I think they're technically 2 different classes, but it's like I had to alternate every day. Like one day was chorus, one day was band, chorus, then band. So I feel like it really only filled one slot in my schedule. So I'm going to count it as one class. And that brings us to the end of our Good Will Hunting episode.
Good movie.
Yes.
Good movie.
And because I changed my score, it's officially above The Apartment and Lilo and Stitch.
Yep, and now tied with Inception. And right there with a bunch of the ones from season 1.
Yeah.
I was about to say, if we account for season 1 as well, yeah, this would put this in Inception just behind The Godfather, Parasite, Inside Out, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
I mean, yes. Yeah.
This feels appropriate.
I love our podcast so much.
If you would like to watch along with us next week, we will be continuing our Harry Potter series and watching Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
It's been a whole year.
Has it really been a whole year since we watched the last one?
I think it's been a year.
Yeah, I think it was around November of last year.
Yeah, well, they're very appropriate for this time of year. And
they are.
Some people like to call them Christmas movies. They're definitely not. I don't fall into that camp.
Die Hard.
No, not as much as Die Hard. Die Hard is definitely more of a Christmas movie.
Sure. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a rating or review and follow us on all our social channels. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see y'all next week.
To infinity and beyond!
Why so serious?
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.